Imagine a world powered by brilliance you were never meant to see. See, we're pulling back the curtain on a hidden history, a history of ideas that changed the world, but not the names behind them. For generations, Black inventors have shaped how we live, how we work, how we move, and how we communicate. They engineered safety in our streets, efficiency in our factories, comfort in our homes, and innovation in our hospitals. Their genius is built into the bones of modern life. But in the shadows of that genius, there is a different story. Patents signed away, names erased from the record, credit handed to someone else, fortunes made, just not by the people who did the creating. This is not just a story about stolen inventions. It's a story about stolen legacies. In this documentary, we will travel through time, from plantations and workshops to laboratories and boardrooms, to uncover the Black minds behind inventions you use every single day. Inventions you were never told were theirs. We will meet actual Black inventors still fighting to reclaim their family names. We'll hear from scholars who followed the paper trails that history tried to bury. And we'll confront the uncomfortable truth that erasing an inventor isn't just about stealing an idea. It's about stealing the power to define who is seen as a genius, a leader, and a creator. This documentary is not here to add Black inventors to history. It's here to put them back where they always belonged, at the center of it all. So as you watch, ask yourself, whose name is missing from the devices in your pocket? From the systems that keep you safe? From the breakthroughs we celebrate? Because once you know these stories, you can't unknow them again. And once you see the man who has been written out of his own creation, you'll never look at American innovation the same way again. This is the untold story of Black invention and the world that tried to take it. And specifically, the world that is still taking from Mr. Morris Glover. Let's begin. I have a little following on social media, and a lot of times I interact with some of the people that like my content. I get a lot of messages from, people. Sometimes they're just sending me interesting videos. Sometimes they're sending me positive messages. Sometimes I've had people come and ask for help to maybe help promote something that they got going on, or make the public aware of an incident that might have happened. And I remember getting this message from an honorable brother, and he told me about Morris Glover. He told me about the situation, and he let me know that Morris Glover was a Black inventor and had his invention taken and used without his permission, even though he had a patent. And he wanted to know if I would be able to help him. This was on Instagram, and his name is, or his Instagram page is OG Trini Jones. OG Trini Jones. Go show his page some love on Instagram and tell him we appreciate him for being a stand-up, honorable brother. Meet Morris Glover, a passionate inventor from Cleveland, Ohio. Morris dedicated himself to creating a simple yet revolutionary device, a cloth strip designed to be worn across the nose, enhancing breathing for those with sinus issues and sleep apnea. But I'll let Morris tell you a little bit more.
My name is Morris S. Glover, and I'm an auto worker, and I'm an inventor. I like to invent things, and I've been inventing things for a long time. The invention that I invented was the originator of the nose strip device. I invented that. That you may be seeing Bree Wright or Biore or Elizabeth Arden or a Jergens brand. That came from me. I'm the originator of it. I came up with a new type of facial cleanser strip, flexible strip. This is like a little paper prototype right here to show you. This is the second with the pad that's on the second layer. And what it does is that I wanted to make I wanted to make something that was flexible and disposable, where you can use on different parts of the body, but the actual area I was speaking of at that day and time was the nose area. So you place it on top of the nose and you apply finger pressure. The oil fluids come out. It clings onto the strip. The second layer has a pad that's attached to the flexible strip that can be impregnated with any type of medicine that the manufacturer chooses to impregnate the pad with. You place it on top of the nose, you apply finger pressure, you squeeze out the oil by putting pressure onto the strip. The oil fluid comes out of the pores, clings onto the strip, and you kind of wipe or scrape, whatever they say, away. At the same time, your nose is being cleansed with medicine to keep it from being affected and keeps it from being sore or whatnot. And you take it and you just throw it away.
Black brilliance is nothing new, and Morris Glover is evidence that black brilliance still lives. An example of black brilliance from the past is Garrett Morgan. Garrett Morgan patented the safety hood and smoke protector in 1914, an early effective gas mask designed to help firefighters and workers breathe in smoky or toxic environments. Now, his device used a canvas hood with a tube that drew cleaner air from near the floor. It gained national fame after Morgan used it to rescue workers trapped in a 1916 tunnel in Cleveland, Ohio. Due to the racial tensions in America at that time, he struggled to sell his invention. So he had to resort to hiring a white actor to pose as the inventor during presentations of his breathing device. Morgan then posed as the inventor's sidekick. He had to disguise himself as a Native American man named Big Chief Mason. Now, wearing the hood, Morgan would enter areas otherwise unsafe for breathing inside the presentation. The tactic ended up being very successful. The buyers believed they were buying from a white inventor, so his invention became a hit. Now, Morris's journey was filled with challenges as well. He looked for help from a marketing firm located in Pennsylvania called AIM, American Ideal Marketing. He hired them to help bring his invention to life and secure the patent he had worked tirelessly to obtain.
Now, this what took place back during the 80s. I was laid off for about 10 years of the auto industry. I was working for Ford Motor Company. I got called back. But before I got called back, I had seen this commercial because I'm from Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, and it was a local commercial that was on the channel called Channel 43. And they was advertising this market company called AIM, American Ideal Management. They used to come on late at night. And by you being out of work or whatever, you sometimes you want to try to find a way to see if you can make some money to make ends meet until you get back up on your feet. It was a service agreement that was made up. After I received the money to have them to market the invention, and I thought that they was legit at the time. I sent them some memorandum of documents. Put that here we go. Some documents that was right here. This one shows the record of invention. Okay. This one right here. I don't know if you can see it a little bit, but it's record of invention. Okay. Well, now the strip also can be used in different parts of the body to open blackhead pores, or maybe can also be used for burnt patients or whatnot. You know, without the finger touching and irritating the skin. It's done with a sterile strip that you can use, that's use any parts of the body. I call it the next thing to the Q-tip because it's original. And I also came up with an idea at the same time that I explained it to the market company, that it can also be used to open your sinuses. Now the strip is called nose bridge because it's for the nose area and it lays on top of the bridge of the nose. You apply pressure for the operation that I just got finished showing you. It can be made 500,000 different ways. It can come in different colors that I showed and written to the company.
Similarly, Madam C.J. Walker, the first self-made female millionaire in America, faced obstacles when partnering with businesses to market her hair care products. Walker worked diligently to create her brand, but encountered skepticism and unfair treatment due to her race. Nevertheless, her tenacity carved out a space for her products in a notoriously challenging market.
This is a document that they had sent me through the mail of record of invention. Also, it means like date of conception. That's when it first started. Even though you can have an invention stuck in your mind for years, but once you start it, and once you pursue on a patent, that is the date of conception. When that's that date, that first date, the early date, whatever you want to call it, that's when you start working on the invention. Okay. That's it right there. Now, this is a rough draft I made it at the time. And if you can see the date, because you know these cameras is kind of like goes off and on close. Let's see. It's right here. It's dated 6/13/87. That's way before the Brilliance strip was invented or came out.
Sometimes when you have a cold, you just can't breathe. Luckily, nothing opens air passages faster than Breathe Right nasal strips. Breathe better with Breathe Right, in sizes for kids and adults.
Okay. Now, this was the original drawings that I brought attention to the company at that day and time, which showed the nose bridge pad, showed it in operation how it worked, mechanical drawing. You can see that. The nose bridge pad. Should I look closer so you can see it? Also, I showed that the product can be used to open your sinuses, called the Nose Bridge Plus Pad for sinus use. That was the picture that shows the person there and shows inside the sinuses where he or she, let me try to get this right there, don't have to take a sinus pill. There it is to show you close right there. These drawings was never returned, but I took copies of everything that I sent to market company at that day at time. What happened was that the company that I found out at that day and time, when I was checking up behind them, making sure that they was taking care of the business after I got finished paying them $3,550. What happened is that the company was making like that they was actually marketing the product.
Over time, Morris became increasingly skeptical of AIM's claims. He felt he was being misled as they reported a lack of interest from potential buyers. A parallel can be drawn with the story of Lewis Lattimore, a black inventor who played a crucial role in making the electric light bulb practical. Despite his significant contributions, including developing a carbon filament, Lattimore was often overshadowed by Thomas Edison and didn't receive equal credit for all of his achievements. Eventually, Morris decided to break ties with AIM and take matters into his own hands.
I talked to this gentleman at that day and time and asked him that did they ever heard of AIM, American Idea Marketing? They said no, that they haven't sent them no memorandum or no product perspective or anything. So to make a long detailed story short, I asked them to send my property back. They gave me a hard way to go. I hired an attorney, which was Stephen B. Chesler. I was able to get my property back, but they kept the drawings that I sent them, where that I showed that the invention can be used to open up your pores, to clean out your pores, cleanse the skin, or it can also be used for the sinuses that I just displayed to you in the drawings that they haven't returned.
This echoes the experience of Angie Turner King, a pioneering black woman who invented a type of hair roller. Despite her diligent efforts to promote her invention, she faced obstacles when companies claimed they had no knowledge of her work, echoing Morris Glover's struggle for recognition.
So what happened was that my lawyer, before they had sent everything back, that we wanted to make sure that as anything comes out that's close to my invention, that they was going to be liable for it. Now, they procrastinated with signing the document that my lawyer had sent them. It was a multi-release.
I think we starting to see what really is going on here. Now, Morris Glover creates this invention, hires this company to help market it. They're lying about the fact that they're marketing the product to companies and it's being turned down. So Morris goes ahead and hires a lawyer. They don't send all of his drawings back. Then they receive the documents from Morris Glover's lawyers and they drag their feet. Yeah, this is starting to look more than just a conspiracy to me. Now, what Morris did not know at the time was that the FBI had begun investigating AIM for essentially stealing the inventions of countless aspiring inventors.
Before that took place, I also, at that time, during the time when my lawyer, Stephen B. Chesler, was taking action for me of getting back my property, I also wrote to the Federal Trade Commission and Attorney General. And I received some valuable information, some important information that I received from the Federal Trade Commission at that day and time, that the company was being sued, the market company that was supposed to help inventors like myself, was being sued for misleading inventors in the country for deceptive acts.
Now, it was years later, while working a day job to make ends meet, Morris received unexpected news from one of his co-workers. A famous NFL player was spotted wearing a breathing strip, Morris's breathing strip to be exact. The invention he had labored over was now in stores under a different name, generating millions of dollars. See, let me explain what some of the benefits are for having a public disclosure of your invention. For one, it's going to establish a date of creation. Now, you need that date because whoever has the earliest date, that proves in any dispute that you are the actual creator of that invention. It gives you a chance to also find out if what you have invented actually is something that deserves a patent. So it can kind of give you a green light on pursuing a patent for it. And the sooner you have your idea documented, that's the easiest way to protect it, at least if there's no corruption going on. And this document also stands for any inventor's first claim on the work that they created.
This is Federal Statute 1706, the disclosure document. The disclosure document means, if those who don't understand what I'm talking about, the disclosure document means that it shows an earlier date for the invention once it puts on file. At the time, it was $10. Okay. It puts the invention on file for 2 years. If he or she decides to pursue a patent on the invention, it'll be protected for 2 days, plus it will add credit to the application that he or she is filing for to get whatever patent on the device that they're applying for. Now, my disclosure document, which my disclosure document number at the time was 214122, November the 14th, 1988. There it is right there. Okay. This was during the time that I was having problems with the market company. I had to renew it, which was $6 at the time. The reason why I renew it, because if I didn't, I would have lost time of an earlier date to prove that whoever tried to copy or come out with such a strip to go across the nose area, I would still be the first because of an earlier file date. Okay, this is the document that shows that I paid $6 at the time, and that they had signed for, because I sent everything express mail along with they had to sign, where that it shows that I had a new disclosure number on file, along with a letter that you had to fill out. Well, you write to whoever that works in the department that you want to extend it for 2 more years because you're going to apply for a patent application. That will add credit, like I said before, which will go to the examiner once the examiner receives your applications, to shows that this invention was put on file at an earlier date, which the Brilliance people did not have or did not show during the time that I had them in court.
So here's where the plot really thickens. Now, there's a company called CNS Incorporated. It was supposedly founded by Dr. Daniel Cohen and Dr. Frederick Strobel back in 1982. Now, the reason why they formed this company, they wanted to develop equipment for brainwave analysis. These two men actually met while they were residents together in the neurology department at the University of Minnesota Hospitals, and they discovered each wanted to use their medical training in a non-traditional capacity. In their initial meeting in 1978, they talked about, and they both agreed, that the state-of-the-art in monitoring equipment for brain activity was, in Strobel's words, in a relatively primitive state. So they wanted to focus mostly on equipment that had to do with brain waves. Brain was their focus. That was what their goal was. They made many attempts in this field and was basically headed for bankruptcy because all of them had failed. But then, one day, this other guy, who was supposed to be the so-called inventor of the Breathe Right strips, Bruce Johnson, just walked into their office and brought this strip in and showed it to Cohen. Here, listen as he tells the story himself.
I think probably the next thing we did in that business, which actually almost got me fired.
That sounds good.
Yeah. Even though I had developed credibility at this point because the business was salvaged with the new product line, guy came into the office with an idea and he wanted to present it to me, and he did. And what it was a Band-Aid with a piece of plastic glued on top of it. He explained that if you take this Band-Aid with the plastic on top of it and you stuck it to your nose to both sides, over the top, that it would open up the nasal passages and allow you to breathe easy. And I looked at it and I thought it was one of the most simple, brilliant devices I had ever seen. Without board approval, I went ahead and I licensed it, including giving the guy a stock option as part of the license arrangement. And I even hired a recruiter to go out and find a big pharma executive to run that division of the company. And then I went to the next board meeting. Our board meetings were quarterly at that point. I told them what I had done. 2 days later, a contingent of the board came into my office at 8 in the morning and said, "We think if you like this product so well, you run it, change your search parameters, and replace yourself in the existing business." So in other words, what they were saying was, if you don't make a success out of this new business, you've already replaced yourself, because what the hell were you thinking by licensing this nose Band-Aid when here we are, capital equipment, we're a high-tech medical equipment business, and you've just licensed a consumer product, and we don't know anything about manufacturing and marketing a consumer product. So
now, even though Morris Glover holds the earliest patent for his creation, he found himself in a relentless battle against a corporate machine that had infringed upon his rights. His cry for justice fell on deaf ears as the court actually refused to hear his case, even with his overwhelming evidence in hand. Morris then turned to a higher court. The Supreme Court of the United States. Morris submitted a writ of certiorari. A writ of certiorari is a court order issued by a superior court to an inferior court or a smaller court, requesting the full record of a case so that the higher court can review it for legal errors or conflicting interpretations of the law. I think there's no other case that fits the bill more than Morris Glover's case against Dan Cohen and CNS Incorporated and Bruce Johnson and anybody who was connected with this case.
I took them to court. We were supposed to have, we had a case management conference at the federal courthouse. It was on Public Square, Cleveland, Ohio, at that day and time. Now, this is one of the documents that I recorded the conference was on January the 17th, 1996. This is a picture of my rewrite device right here. No, I'm sorry, of my nose bridge device right here. And this is the rewrite. See how they copied off my pictures? Now this is the strips. Right here. This is mine and this is theirs. It's the same thing. Now, I will break that down to you about the federal law statute that was broken by the federal court also. Their own statutes. Okay. Now, the introduction. The Breathe Right device is a direct copy of my concept of my invention. Why? Because of the exact wording of the creation of new technology in my utility patent. Period. The technology of the nose bridge facial cleanser wording in the utility patent. Period. 1. Flexible strip device for the nose area. 2. Pad is attached to the second surface of the strip. Figure 4. 3. Bend by position to bend down over the bridge of the nose. This is what I just got finished showing. Okay. Now let me start over again while I'm holding this. I'm going to read it over again. Okay. The introduction. The Breathe Right device is a direct copy of my concept of my invention. Why? Because of the exact wording of the creation of new technology in my utility patent. The technology of the nose bridge facial cleanser wording in the utility patent. Number 1. Get this over so when I read it, you can look at it at the same time. Okay. Number 1. Flexible plastic strip device for the nose area. Number 2. Pad is attached to the second surface of the strip. Figure 4. Number 3. Bend by position to be bent down over the bridge of the nose. Number 4. Wide varieties in the size and shapes. Number 2. Operation. 1. Bend the strip. 2. Press against the bridge of the nose. 3. The strip can be moved up or down along the sides of the nose. 4. Any oils or dirt scraped or wiped away. That means that in order for the glue to stick on the nose, the bridge of the nose, the consumer will have to cleanse the nose area to remove oil fluids, skin oil fluids from the nose in order for it to get a perfect solid seal on the bridge of the nose, so it won't come off or peel off on its own. So the glue will stick on to the adhesive will stick onto the nose, the skin of the nose.
Just want to make it clear so you understand what we're trying to tell you. This right here is Morris Glover's patent. And let's look at the date. This is the date that Morris filed for the patent. This is the date up here that Morris was given the patent, or it was considered registered. Now, if you look here on Bruce Johnson's so-called invention, this was the date that he applied for the patent. This was the date up here that he received it. So obviously, Morris has the earlier date. Now, the same examining, this will explain to you what an examiner is before we talk more about that.
When the PTO receives the inventor's application, it is first checked to see if it is complete and complies with all the PTO's application requirements. It then assigns the submission to a patent examiner, a staff person with a background in the field or art the invention falls within, to evaluate the application and decide whether a patent can be granted.
Okay, so now that you know what an examiner is, the same examiner that gave Morris, that examined Morris's invention to give him a patent, is the same examiner that examined Bruce Johnson's so-called invention to allow a patent.
Their device is similar to mine. The drawings is the same, everything. you know, which I know that they had to get this invention from AIM that was later put out of business by the Federal Trade Commission. Now it's the federal courts. I showed this to the federal court in Cleveland, Ohio. I showed this to the judge at the time, the documents, and I also showed them the science. I also showed them the date of conception, that everything that was involved with my invention is filed on the patent office. And
Now, strangely enough, or should I say conveniently, Morris had his laboratory notebook. And I'm going to let him explain what that is. But CNS did not have a laboratory notebook. Now, I'm going to let Morris explain to you what the laboratory notebook is.
this is it right here. This is a document that's from the United States Department of Commerce of the United States Patent and Trademark Office. What it is that it shows all that was involved with the invention itself, from date of conception, from signatures of witnesses of the invention, the operation of the invention, how the invention works, how it was thought of and created, who it was created by, you know, which is me. Okay, this is the notebook. It's I has on here, this is my laboratory notebook. All that was involved with my invention is in here and is put on file along with my applications and my patents at the Patent and Trademark Office. So the company that I had in court, which was a Brilliance device, they did not have anything such as this, a laboratory notebook, okay, that shows all the data of all that was involved with the invention. Okay, it's for my records. Morris S. Glover, inventor. The patent numbers, and I put on here the invention, the inventor's records for the Patent and Trademark Office. Applicant pro se. That's what I got right here. This is all what's involved with my invention from day one, from 1987 on up. Okay, till I got my patents. Okay, now back to the company. CNS did not show anything at the court, and yet the judge granted them a motion for summary judgment. He was biased. Market Corporation took 2 drawings of my device. They didn't return it. That's why we had the multi-release that was printed out in order to protect my invention if someone comes out with it that company was liable for. Now I brought that to the federal court's attention, and they just was biased. They looked over. They didn't care. I don't know, is it because I was a little guy or what, but I followed the law. I didn't break the law. They broke the law. And I showed many ways that they broke the law. To my recollection, I believe the market company didn't think that I was going to stick to pursuing the patents, which I did. They took the other part of the invention of the sciences. Okay. They took that part of it. Okay. And what they did was they took a material part of that to construct theirs. This is what I made up for the courts. Okay. Now, first of all, I didn't ask for a judge trial. I didn't ask for a magistrate judge. I requested for a jury trial, my own working class peers, people that's out on the street, everyday people, to make the judge call. That's what I wanted in court, which they didn't do. They didn't do it. Now this is exhibits that I made up for the jury to look at, to show how they modified their product for mine. This is figure 1. This is figure 2. Let's see if we can get that in there. It's figure 3. This is figure 4. Now you see what they did with the ends. To my recollection, I believe they said, hey, it looks like an arrow in the front. So why don't we just take it and make it look like a wingtip arrow on the back? Now let's go back. You see the front here? That looks like an arrow. And this looks like the back of the arrow. And they just double-sided, one on the left, one on the right, like I would with the front part of my strip. Okay. Now remember that the strip itself is an adhesive. It's two adhesive. So I'm going to show that to you too. And this is the final conclusion. They sandwiched it in. See? That's what they did. They used my concept for a roadmap in order to construct theirs. Plain and simple.
Now, with all the many, many cases that we have seen of corruption within the judicial system, we can't overlook the fact that they didn't want him to go to court. The company AIM never returned his images, his drawings. They didn't show up with their invention notebook where it would be detailed information like what Morse had to show their invention. And their story just has a lot of holes in it. They should have given Morris Glover a jury trial and let the jury decide, not just a judge.
Is Florida's Judge Paul Hawks, whose corruption took a uniquely extravagant form. Hawks became notorious for misusing public funds to build what critics dubbed the Taj Mahal Courthouse, a lavish building that cost taxpayers $48 million during Pennsylvania Supreme Court Justice Joan Ori Melvin, who was convicted of theft of services and misuse of government property in 2013. Justice Melvin used her judicial staff and resources to run her political campaign for the state Supreme Court. What makes her case particularly noteworthy is her unusual sentence. She was ordered to write handwritten apologies to every judge in Pennsylvania and pose for a photograph holding a sign that read, "I have broken the law." Illinois Supreme Court Justice James D. Hyplo, whose corruption centered on leveraging his position to place himself above the law. Justice Hypler was censured after repeatedly using his judicial position to avoid traffic citations. When stopped by police officers, he would flash his Supreme Court identification and ask, "Do you know who I am?" This blatant attempt to intimidate law enforcement showed profound disrespect for the very legal system he was sworn to uphold. Texas Judge Rodolfo Rudy Delgado, who was convicted of bribery and obstruction of justice after accepting payments in exchange for favorable rulings on criminal cases. For years, Delgado took cash bribes from attorneys, allowing their clients to receive favorable treatment in his courtroom. When he realized he was under investigation, he attempted to cover his tracks by returning a bribe and claiming it was a campaign contribution. Judge Richard Baumgartner, whose personal demons led to a scandal that overturned numerous criminal convictions. While presiding over Tennessee's most serious criminal cases, Judge Baumgartner was secretly struggling with prescription drug addiction. He bought pills illegally from defendants in his own court and carried on an inappropriate relationship with a woman in his drug court program who supplied him with pills, the few times in American history that a federal judge was removed through impeachment. Judge Nixon's corruption centered around using his position to influence a case involving his business partner's son. When investigated, Nixon compounded his misconduct by lying to a federal grand jury about his involvement. In 1989, the U.S. Senate convicted Nixon on impeachment charges and removed him from office. He also served 5 years in federal prison for perjury. Illinois Judge Thomas J. Maloney, whose corruption reached truly shocking levels. Maloney wasn't just taking bribes, he was fixing trials in some of the most serious cases to come before his court. As part of the infamous Operation Greylord investigation, federal authorities discovered that Judge Maloney had been accepting bribes to acquit defendants in serious felony cases. In a particularly twisted scheme, Maloney would sometimes accept bribes and then double-cross the defendants by convicting them anyway to avoid suspicion. Former Luzerne County Judge Mark Chiavarella became infamous for what is now known as the Kids for Cash scandal. In one of the most heartbreaking judicial corruption cases in American history, Chiavarella received millions in kickbacks for sending juvenile defendants to private detention facilities. For years, children as young as 10 years old appeared before Chiavarella for minor offenses like mocking a principal on MySpace, trespassing in an abandoned building, or shoplifting DVDs. Most appeared without lawyers. In assembly line hearings lasting only minutes, Chiavarella sentenced thousands of these children to juvenile detention. Why? Because he and another judge had received $2.8 million from the developers of private juvenile detention centers.
And if it is found that these judges had some kind of misconduct going on, then there definitely needs to be a deeper investigation done. For right now, we just want to see Morris Glover get his day in court. He deserves his day in court, and we're not going to stop until we get it. We want justice for any misconduct and corruption that was done to Morris Glover in this court system. We also want damages for Morris Glover for all these years that he had to watch somebody else make their living off of his hard work.
I'm Bruce Johnson, and I'm an inventor. Since I've been working on Breathe Right, I've had an obsession for noses. This is one of my favorites. I was always congested at night, and that meant a bad night of sleep. I tried everything, from padded paper clips to straws. Finally, one night I was laying in bed, and I thought, outside of the nose, not inside.
I see this as something similar to what happened with Sophia Stewart when she was the original creator of The Matrix as well as The Terminator. Now, it took her years and years for them to finally give her recognition.
So they say that they pull open, they do not pull open. I stood in front of the mirror for an hour and a half when I first purchased the strips back then, and they do not move. I smelled medicine. It was medicine. They took the memorandum that I supplied to the market company that shows that the Nose Bridge Plus pad can also be pregnated with a vapor type of formula, which is like Vicks Vapor Rub or something like that, which I got the idea from when my mother used to tell me to put the medicine on the nose so it can open up my pores. That's what they did. They just mixed it with the glue. Okay. I would have showed that to the jury if the courts would have let me go to court. They knew that they had took my device. They knew it. And they knew that they got it from AIM because no one else in the world had the device. They didn't have an idea such as a strip going across the nose. And if that was true, they would have let me go to court. But since I was a little guy, they railroaded me out of court.
Now, as you see, this documentary was free because we're not asking anything other than for you to watch it and support us by signing the petition. The link will be in the description. Sign the petition so Morris Glover can have his day in court like he deserves.